Good morning, students. So we are going to come to the last two topics of the chapter called epidemiology. So in epidemiology, we studied about the incidence, prevalence and all these things, about research. So there are two ways in which we can identify the cause of disease and the other things. So that is through different types of research. The two things that have been put in your syllabus is cohort study and the case control study. So cohort study, what is cohort study? Okay, in every aspect of epidemiology, we said there are three factors: host factor, environment factor and the host agent and the environment. So in this, we are going to study how a particular exposure has caused the outcome of a disease in some people, why some people get disease, why some people do not get disease. Okay, so cohort study means it is a continuous study. That is, the people who are selected for the study are studied for a long period of time till they get a particular outcome. So that is an important aspect about cohort study. That is, for example, if a researcher thinks I am going to be at risk of getting a heart attack, then he will select me for a study and then he will study me till I get a heart attack. So that is cohort study. So I am being selected so that the outcome is heart attack. So till I get a particular outcome, till I get the disease, he is going to study me. So for example, if a particular person is exposed to coronavirus, then you study that person till they are getting the disease. So we know the incubation period for coronavirus is 2 weeks. So we know the person will get the disease in 2 weeks. If he doesn't get the disease, that means the person has avoided getting the disease. So that person is very important. We will see, even though the person was exposed to the virus, he has not got the disease. So why he didn't get the disease? So we'll study that. Same way, but the same thing cannot happen in some diseases like HIV and leprosy, where the incubation period is a long time, like 10 years. So if you are exposed to that bacteria, you have to study the person for 10 years till the outcome of the disease is present. So the incidence of the disease to the individual, so you will study that person till the outcome comes, and they will be studied for a long period of time. That is why it's called a cohort study, and all the people who are exposed next to the person in line will also be added to the study. So that is cohort. So cohort can be studied in two ways: either by in future you can study the people, or looking at their medical history and through the patient's chart you can study. If you are doing it in future, that is, you are going to study the person from now till they get the outcome, then it is called a prospective cohort study. That is, you are going to study in future. So after exposure till the outcome, you are going to study the person. Whereas a retrospective study is through the chart of the patient. That is, already the data is available in the patient's chart. So in the medical records, we are going to take out all the charts of patients who have suffered from a particular outcome, and then we will study about their condition. So that is retrospective cohort study. So there are 5 important factors in the cohort study. One is the selection of the study group. So who do you select for the particular research? So in a cohort study, all the participants should have identical background except the exposure status. That is, they should not have a different lifestyle. For example, if you are studying people who are smoking and studying them to check whether they are getting cancer, you cannot have one person who is smoking to be 70 years old, one person who is 5 years old or 10 years old, and you cannot have person who already have lung cancer. You cannot have people who have other comorbidity. So all of them should be similar groups. Then only it will be easy for you to study and the outcome will be correct. So based on the uniformity of their condition, you have to include them in the study. Okay. Then the exposure, the level of exposure. For example, the same example of people who smoke who are likely to get lung cancer, if you are studying, if one person is smoking 5 cigarettes and one person is smoking 5 packets of cigarettes, then their level of exposure is different. That is, one person has very less exposure, the other person is very high exposure. So that difference, if it is there, then it will cause bias. That is, one person with low exposure, he may not get the disease at all because he is smoking very less. The person who is smoking very high may get the disease very quickly. So this difference should be taken into account, or similar groups should be used in the study. So standardization of their exposure is very important if you are going to use them in the research, cohort research. Then the measurement of outcome. See, outcome is what happens, what is the result of the cohort study, and what is the result of their exposure to a particular behavior. For example, if smoking is the behavior, then the outcome could be either lung cancer, it could be other lung problems. So we have to measure the outcome, and where do we measure it from? We use the chart of the patient, or the medical records of the patient, or the death certificate of the patient. So this will help us to understand the outcome of the patient's lifestyle or behavior after the research or through the research. Then follow up is very important. When you are doing any research, you have to follow up all the patients, because if you do not do follow up, then your result is not correct. For example, if you are doing a 5-year study on people, on the outcome of people who smoke, then after 2 years, some of the people who enrolled in your study may go and live in another city. So how will you follow them up? Either you write letters to them, or you call them on the phone, or you personally go and meet them. This will ensure good follow up. Then there is bias in the cohort study. What is bias? Bias means the factors which can cause the relationship between the exposure and the outcome to be wrong. That is, you may think one particular exposure caused the outcome, but actually it is something else. So that is bias. So people who are, for example, if you select in your research for studying people who who are smoking, who will get cancer, of the 10 people, if you take 3 people who have already got some lung problem, then it is a bias. That is, those people are more likely to get lung problem than the other 7 people. So that is bias. Then how do you analyze the cohort studies? Analysis is very important. When you have to analyze, you have to do proper follow up and use the different ratios. The incidence ratio, the prevalence ratio, and when they were exposed, how much duration they were exposed to the particular risk, and what was the outcome. So all these have to be taken into consideration. It's just like your research which you have already done. So whenever a person is exposed to a particular risk, what is the outcome, and all that has to be analyzed. There are some strengths and weaknesses of cohort studies. We'll see the strengths. The strength is that multiple outcome can be measured for any one exposure. For example, suppose a person who is smoking cigarettes is taken in your study to see the outcome. Your main focus may be on lung cancer, whether the person is getting lung cancer. But at the end of the study, you may see that the person is not only getting lung cancer, he is also getting other lung problems, like he may be getting breathlessness, obstructive diseases of the pulmonary canal, or sometimes he may also get other diseases like cardiac problems, hypertension, because of the smoking. So you may expect to find one thing, but you may actually end up finding different things in the result. So you can also look at multiple exposures. For the example, when you are studying a group of people who are smoking, you can also check whether they are having good lifestyle of walking, whether their diet is good. So all these other factors can also be taken into consideration to check whether it has any role on the outcome. Then the exposure that is measured before the onset of disease in prospective cohort studies, because prospective means you're going to do in the future. So you can measure the exposure before the onset, that is how much exposure the patient is having, can be studied. In a retrospective study, even though you can measure, it will be it may not be right all the time, because you don't know how, because it's something in the past. Then cohort studies demonstrate the cause, so you will be able to identify the cause of a particular problem, and it minimizes the selection bias. That is, in a case control study, you will select the candidates in the case and control, whereas in a cohort study, all the people with a particular trait you are selecting. So everybody, when you select during a particular period of time, it reduces the chance of bias because of wrong selection. Then it is good for measuring exposures, rare exposures. Then it is good for outcomes which occur long after exposure. Then it can measure incidence and prevalence, which we have already studied. Then the weakness is, this study is costly and time consuming. As we told, you take a long time. From the time the patient starts smoking till the time they get a disease, it may be many years. So if you are doing a cohort study, you have to spend all your energy and time in following up all these patients for such a duration. So that is a costly and time consuming affair. And as we told, because it's a long duration study, some of them may go off to different places, some may die, some may not want to participate in the study, so they will be lost to follow up. Then the knowledge and exposure may be different, so that outcome is also different. So this bias is there. And during the study, the participant may behave differently. So because you are doing a research on their smoking behavior, they may stop smoking or reduce the number of cigarettes. So this behavior change may happen, so that means that your result will not be proper. Then it may be inefficient for a rare disease outcome. For example, smoking, the chances of getting cancer is there, but suppose you are checking smoking and some rare lung condition, then the patient may not even get the disease, so your study will be not properly finished. So these are some of the weaknesses of the study. So you can just think in your mind about this cohort study for a different topic. I have given the smoking and cancer, lung cancer, as an example. You can think of it as exposure to coronavirus and getting the disease, or exposure to leprosy and getting a disability. So things like that you can study. So different aspects. Or even in the study which you have selected for your hospital oriented project, you can actually think whether this will be useful, and you can, at least in your mind, to understand this cohort study, you can think of the process in your own study. Next we come to the case control study. Case control study is usually a two group study. So one group has the cases, the other group has the controls. So their cases also are people and controls also are people. So here the main outcome is the disease, the presence of a disease. In the cohort study, we looked at people who had an exposure, that is, who were exposed to a particular behavior or disease, and we were looking at the outcome. Here the person is already having an outcome, and we are studying the person in detail to see what was the cause, or what was the other factors involved. So here we have two groups. One is the case group, one is the control group. The main advantage of case control is that this can be used for even diseases that are very rare. So in the previous cohort study, the rare diseases may never occur also. So even after following up a patient for 5 years to 10 years, the patient may never get the disease. Whereas here, you can study diseases that are rare and find out all about the disease. You can find more characteristic of the people who are affected and find out a lot of information. So the first thing is the hypothesis has to be written clearly. So what you are planning to find, or what you hope to find in the study, that is the hypothesis. That is, for example, if a particular person who is smoking will get cancer, then you take 5 people who are already got cancer and see how many cigarettes they smoked, how many, what all they did, which caused the cancer. Okay, and you have another group of people who had similar exposure but did not get the disease, and see why is the difference between the two groups, or what is the difference between the two groups. Okay, so here we have to define the case as well as the control, and the source of the case, source of the control, selection of case, selection of control. So case means a patient who is suffering from a particular disease, that is called a case in the case control study. Okay, so where do we get the case? We get the patients from the hospital registers or the community registers. For example, all the people who had heart attack because of drinking alcohol, if you want to take, then you will go and check in the hospital register to see who all had heart attack. Okay, you go to a cardiac hospital, check in the hospital register who all had heart attack, then you make a list of these patients, then you check in their history, personal history, whether these people had drinking habit. Then all those people you can take as cases because they had a drinking problem. That is what you are trying to study. You are trying to study people who got heart attack because of drinking, and then you select those patients. Okay, and then same way you take control group also. So the same age group of people. For example, if you have 10 people in your case who had drinking problem leading to heart attack, then you take similar group of people, age group, similar background, similar height, weight, and then you see patients who were also drinking but did not get heart attack. So these will be the controls. Okay, so the control group will be people who are similar to the cases but without the disease. Okay, so that is the difference between the cases and controls. So controls will have the exposure and the disease will not be there, or if you are studying the disease, they have the disease but the exposure is not. So that kind of relationship you have to have. Here we have one example. Control should meet all the criteria for cases apart from having the disease itself. So if in case you are taking women between 50 to 70 years with breast cancer, the controls should be people within 50 to 70 years with all other factors similar. If all the women are married in this group, they should also be married. If all these women have children, then all these group people controls also should have children, but they should not have breast cancer. So similar backgrounds, similar age group, similar exposures you will take in the controls, but only thing, they will not have the disease which the cases are having. So now you have two groups of people. One group, both groups are very similar, but one group has a disease, the other group does not have the disease. And then you will study these two groups to see what caused the disease in the cases and how the control group did not get the disease, because all other factors are same. So there must be some reason which caused the disease in the cases and did not cause the disease in the controls. So that difference you have to study. So when you select patients, how many do you select in the cases and controls? Usually for any research, people take equal number of cases and controls, but preferably more controls would be better, because it gives a better opportunity to study why a particular person is not getting a disease whereas another person is getting a disease. But statistics has told that if you take 4 times more than the number of cases, it will not have any effect on the controls. For example, if you have 30 cases, then you can have up to 120 controls. From 30 to 120 controls, you can have any number. Okay, and then the next thing is the exposure status. So we are studying to see what is the difference between the cases and the controls, why the cases got the disease, why the control group people did not get the disease. So we have to study what all the people in the case group were exposed to, and what all the control group did not expose to. So as a researcher, you would have a hypothesis what would have caused the disease in the heart attack group. For example, one group is drinking, which leads to heart attack. Other group is drinking but not leading to heart attack. So what is the difference between these groups? They are the same age group, they are the same type of lifestyle. So it could be that one group who had heart attack had less stress, or they may have poor nutrition, or they may have had too much oily food. So these are things that you can study. So you will study the exposure to these factors. So you can give a questionnaire to them, or you can test blood samples from them, or use their pharmacy records to see whether the control group took any medicines to prevent heart attack, whether those who had heart attack did not take any medicine. So all these can be measured from their questionnaire or employment record, medical record, or interview with family members. That will help you to gather data about these two groups. Then once you have collected data, you should be careful to avoid bias. What is bias? Bias means in the outcome, there is a change in the outcome because of wrong selection of cases, or wrong selection of control, or wrong way in which the patient recalls information. We are already collecting data through questionnaires, and most of this we are looking back at their life and seeing whether they were exposed to a particular thing. So that means if the cases as well as controls do not remember properly what exposure they had, then they will give you wrong information which you will write in your record. So this creates bias. One group of people may give wrong information. That is called recall bias. So it changes the result of the experimental study. So that is recall bias. The next thing is, when you record the information about the patient, you may do it in a wrong way, either wantonly or without your knowledge. You enter data in a wrong way. That is called the interviewer or observer bias. Then selection bias happens when your case controls are not selected properly. So we said that cases should be having exposed to a particular condition, and then they should have disease, and controls should not be should be exposed, but they should not have the disease. But if you select the wrong cases or wrong controls, then it can lead to selection bias. All this bias will give wrong information or wrong outcome of the research study. Okay, sometimes there are confounding factors also. What are confounding factors? There are so many variables. That is, the age group of the people can vary. There may be some cause which has caused disease in one group. The other people may not even have been exposed to that, and you did not know about it. Those variables are called confounding variables. Sometimes you will be able to identify the confounding variables, and you can select cases and controls to ensure that these confounding factors are balanced, but sometimes you will not be able to do it. So that is about the confounding factor. And finally, you will analyze the cases and controls by a method called odds ratio. That is, what are the odds ratio is something like the probability, like what is the association between the exposure and the risk, what is the association between smoking and cancer, what is the association between drinking and cardiac problem or heart attack. So what is the chance, or what is the risk of a smoker getting lung cancer, what is the risk or chance or probability of a alcoholic getting cardiac problem. So calculation of this is the odds ratio, and that is the important outcome of your research study. These days, to calculate the odds ratio, there are computer softwares where you enter the data from both the controls and the cases. You will have different odds ratios given to you at different levels of confidence interval. So we'll see the strengths and weaknesses of case control studies. So compared to the cohort study, case control studies are cost effective because they are for shorter period of time, and case control studies can be retrospective, and there is not a long follow-up period, so it is easier to do, and it is efficient for diseases with long latency periods. Like after exposure, even if the disease occurs after a long time, then this study can be useful, and it is useful for even rare diseases, because in a cohort study you will be waiting for the outcome, but here the rare diseases, after the outcome has happened, you are studying, so it is good for rare diseases. And you can check multiple exposures in the case control study, unlike in the cohort study. But there are some weaknesses. Here we studied there are a lot of bias, that is selection bias is there, recall bias is there, observer bias is there, so that means your outcome may not be 100% true. It is because of bias, there can be some wrong information which has gone into the outcome. Then the case control studies are limited to examining one outcome. Though the exposure can be more than one, the outcome will be you are studying only one outcome. So that is one weakness. Then you will not be able to estimate the incidence rates of the disease, because it's not a population based study. Usually you will not be able to identify how many people got the disease in a particular population, because you are only taking a particular group, you are not sampling the whole population. Then it is a poor choice for study of rare exposures, and the sequence between exposure and disease may be difficult to determine at times. So these are the strengths and weaknesses of case control studies. Cohort studies and case control studies are common questions in 5 marks for you. So sometimes, rarely, they can give in 10 marks, and they may ask differences between cohort and case control studies. So I hope you will be able to write it. I hope you understood. If you have any doubts when you come back to the college, you can ask me. So cohort studies are usually, it's done for a long period of time, and you are checking. It can be done retrospectively or prospectively. There are some issues in the cohort studies, and then there are some strengths and weaknesses. Whereas in the case control, you are taking two groups, one is the case, one is the control. Both have to be similar and in all aspects. They also have to have similar exposure, but only the outcome, which is a disease, is present in the case group, whereas in the control group they do not have the disease. Then you go back and study what is the difference between these two groups, why one group which was exposed to that particular incident got the disease, whereas why the other group did not get the disease. For example, one group which was smoking, why they got lung cancer, the other group which is smoking, why they did not get lung cancer. The disadvantage of case control study is there are a lot of bias. You need to know what is bias, and you also need to know the different types of bias and the strengths and weaknesses of the case control studies. So hopefully this will help you to write your exam well. Epidemiology is a very important topic. So we have completed the epidemiology, and Jabba sir has completed the next topic, which is rising healthcare costs and everything. So we have finished 5 topics of this medical sociology 2. Jabba sir will finish the 6th topic also. So this subject is over. Disaster, we are completing 3 topics. The remaining 3 are there, which we will finish before June end. And July we will have 1 or 2 revision exams. Hopefully you study well and be ready for your exam. Thank you.